Hello all, welcome to rotations.com. In this session, we'll discuss about customer import using a bulk import FBDI file, which is having 19 sheet Excel file. Okay, let's get into agenda and we'll try to understand about what are the approaches we have for customer import in Oracle Fusion and in detail discussion about the bulk import FBDI concept and the list of interface error table as well as base table details. So if you observe this slide here, there are two approaches. In earlier presentation, we have discussed about loading the customer using a simplified spreadsheet approach, which has only 4 sheets. And now in today's discussion, we'll discuss about the FBDI, nothing but the file-based data loader, which is having 19-sheet spreadsheet. Okay. And now what is special about it and what are the list of sheets which we have it and what to fill it up? We'll try to understand the basic functionality of this one. So let's get into the details. The first step here, if you observe the list of steps mentioned here, the first one is we have to identify the correct FBDI template based on the ERP version. Next step is we have to generate the batch identifier before filling up the data. And next step is we have to generate the zip file. And the next step is the generated zip file. From the third step, you have to use that one and load the data into the interface table. And the final step is the import job. Okay, these are the high level steps, but we'll try to understand in detail one by one. The very major important one is getting the right template. So based on the ERP version which you are using, you have to get the appropriate version, because for each of your ERP version, there is always a slide. There can be, it's not that always, there can be a slight change. So always make sure that based on the ERP version, get the appropriate FBDI template. And here is a screenshot for the 23A version. Okay. Now, so once you go to this particular Oracle documentation link, it provides you the XLSM template, which is an Excel enabled macro file and which is a 19-sheet Excel file. So once you get the step one, okay, now like this is step one. Once you get this file, the next step is we have to generate a batch ID. Okay, so for this 19-sheet spreadsheet, before you fill it up the data, you require a batch ID to be generated. So how do you get the batch IDs? We have to navigate to receivables, and in that click on billing, and in the billing, the customer section, click on manage data import, and then you have to click on this particular plus symbol. Nothing but you have to create a new batch. You have to mention the user-defined batch name. The batch name can be anything, and mention the appropriate source system based on your requirement. Either you can configure the source systems explicitly, or you can use the existing source system based on the requirement. And the object should be customer and consumer. And the source system here in my example, it is comma separated value. Okay, and the batch name is batch underscore 001. Once you create a batch, it will generate a batch ID. So now we have to utilize this batch ID in our XLSM file. Now here, if you observe the example, we have to use this particular batch ID and we have to fill it up the appropriate sheets. So here, if you observe, as I said you, this is a 19-sheet Excel file and we have to fill up the required sheets. It's not that you have to fill it up all 19 sheets. Based on the requirement, we have to fill it up the required set of sheets. In our example, I have filled up only the 7 sheets because I just want to have a high level creation of a customer, nothing but party site, and party site use. That's it. Nothing but like I'll try to give you detail. Like on the high level, I just used only 7 sheets and filled the required information and generated the file and uploaded. Now here, if you observe the third particular step, what are we doing here is what are the batch ID which we got in the step 2 that we have to fill it up in the sheet. So in all the 19 sheets, the first column will be batch identifier. If you are filling it up, you have to mention the batch identifier which you've considered. And also the very important next one is the original party, original system. In all the sheets, again, you have an original system name. So based on the original system which you have selected in the second step, that you have to mention. So now here, if you observe the example, it is DNB. So if it is DNB, you have to mention DNB. If it is a comma separated value, you have to mention CSV. So I'll tell you where exactly from where you have to get the source system. But for now, this is the initial information which you have to use it before filling up the required information, the data. Okay, batch identifier as well as the original system. Now in this step, once you click on generate CSV file, like assume that you have filled up all the information. And once you click on generate CSV file, what exactly it will do is it will generate a list of CSV file and it will zip it. And the zip name generally it will be AR customer import.zip. And these are list of CSV file inside it. So now this zip file we have to use in our step 4. So in the step 4, what we do is we'll be loading the data, whatever you have in the zip file. The zip file is having the list of CSV file. Using the load interface file for import job, and the import process name is import trading community data in bulk. and we have to select the data file which was generated in the step 3, and we have to perform the import. This step will load the data from the zip file, nothing but the CSV files, into the interface tables. Okay, this is a fourth step. Once this fourth step is succeeded, then you can go to fifth step. Let us say if your data upload fails at step 4, there is no use in going to step 5. Better, first of all, rectify, and if everything is okay, if it is succeeded, then only you have to go to step 5. Now, the next step, step 5, what we will be doing is we have to perform the actual import. So in the step 5, again, you have to go to manage data import batches, which will be in the receivable billing customer section. Click on manage data import batches. Select the appropriate batch ID for which you are trying to perform import. Select that particular record. Click on actions and then select the appropriate step. It has cancel, purge, refresh, and create. So now the step which we want to perform is import. You click on import, and then once you click on import, it provides you a new screen with a 3-step process. The first one is a batch deduplication. It just identifies. It does not need to mention anything. Simply click on next. And the next one is it performs one more extra step. The last one here is it provides us an option whether you want to load the data in the preview mode or whether you want to load the data in the directly whether you want to load the data in the preview mode or whether you want to load the data directly into the base table. So generally, like if you're working on this particular one for the initial time, better go with the preview mode. Okay. And this helps you in identifying the errors in the initial stage. So preview mode, what exactly it does, it will not perform any import in the base table. It just simply validates whether your data is correct or not. If it has error, if it is having any error information, it simply gives you the details so that you can rectify it and then make sure that your data is 100% correct, and then you can perform the real import. That is ideally this is a best practice. Make sure that you go with the recommended approach only, the preview mode, which just validates the data before performing the actual import. Let us say if you perform the preview mode, and if your preview mode is your particular validation is all success, then you can later go into the actual insertion. Okay, so these are the 5-step process of the customer import using the 19-sheet spreadsheet. So once you perform the import, let us say if your batch status will change from in the initial stage active to final stage completed or completed with errors, and then you can find out what is the status of each and every entity. For a given entity, what happened? Is it insertion successful, updation successful, or is error out or a warning? How many records failed? All this information you can see from this particular screen. And based on this, you can validate whether how many got imported and how many got failed. Okay. So now coming to the interface tables as well as list of error table. So as of now, I have considered only the high level set of tables. So around 7 sheets I have considered. So in this, I could see only 6 but I have considered 7 sheets. So the first one is a customer sheet, which the interface table is heads at IMP parties underscore T. And similarly, customer party site. And here, if you observe, the naming convention is headset, nothing but a customer import. And the last one is the temporary table underscore T. And the last column, if you observe, that the error table is same for all the interface table. It has a link between the error ID and the primary key. Based on that, you can link an interface table as well as error table. And the comment to the base table, these are the base tables of the set of sheets which I have considered for import. Okay, so FZ parties, cust accounts, customer sites, and account sites and account site users, as well as the party or site location. Now, before proceeding further, so let us go to the screen and then we'll understand what we are trying to do. So the first step, what we have to do to get the FBDI, we just search here is a customer FBDI 22D. So based on the version, now let us say if you are on 23A, you can mention that. Let us say if you are on 22D, you can mention that. But how do you know your version is? Go to your ERP version, click on username and click on about this application, and you can find out which version you are in. So I'm in 22D. So what I have to do? I'm in the 22D now. And then here you click on customer import. Now this is a Oracle documentation link from which we can get the XLSM file. And observe the information here. The XLS, this is a FBDI template, and observe the schedule process name. This is your schedule process name. And also it provides a list of temporary tables or nothing but interface table details here. Okay. Now, once you get the template file, the next step what you can do is, so let me show you how I have done it. So this is one of the example. By default, Oracle provides you the template with a pre-filled information. So better I'll just get that one. Okay. So 1 minute. Let's say I'll just download it again and click on this one. Okay, so click on enable editing. Okay, it gives you some security risk. I'll tell you what is the tip to fix that also. So here, if you observe the FBDI template, the first file has an instruction information. It has a detailed instruction like regarding what is a load job, what is an import job, what is the format you have to enter, and all this information will be available here. And even the interface table information, the import job details, much of the information you can get from here also. The next thing is the parent entity of your customer import is a parties. Okay, so here if you observe, we were talking about the batch identifier as well as party original system. So, and similarly here, if you observe the party sites, every particular sheet, the 19 sheet, whichever you have it, definitely it will have the identifier as well as a source system name. So that's how like each sheet is interlinked. Okay. So batch identifier, party information, or maybe the appropriate entity original information. Nothing but maybe if you observe, let's say I'm going to account sheet, and here the account sheet. So the account, you cannot create an account without party. So definitely when you're creating an account, if you mention account information, definitely you have to mention party information. That's how it is. So now if I just double click here, so this is my batch identifier. This is my customer account original system, customer account source system reference, and this is a party information which we are supposed to enter in the sheet one, the first sheet. Okay, that's how it says like this account is related to that party. And similarly, if you're trying to enter the data for the account sites, so account site definitely requires account information, right? So now here, if you observe, this is my account information, and this is my site information. So this site belongs to this account. That's how like and also if it is account site, definitely you require a party site information also. Okay. So each sheet is interlinked to another sheet. So based on the interlinkage, based on the linkage of between the sheets, you have to mention the appropriate references. So let me open the sheet which I have used for import. Okay. So I'll just try to go through the list of entities. So I have filled up only the 7 sheets. So let me explain this. The first one is batch identifier and party original system. But why did I mention this one is because let me show you from where we can get that. Go to setup and maintenance. Manage trading community source system. So here, from here, you can get the code as well as the name. So now this is a code which you have to use it for the original system. And now similarly, you have to mention the original references and then your actual name. So whatever the references which you mentioned, this is only for internal references and it is never shown when it is never used by any customer generally. Of course, it can be shown in the UI, but it's of no use for any transactional purpose. But definitely it is used internally by Oracle to identify the unique record. So, and this should be unique across your particular party table. Okay, generally this is used for the purpose of legacy correlation purpose. Okay, this is a party information. Similarly, you have a party site information. Now the party site is under the party. So definitely I have to mention the party detail. And under the party, I have my party site information. And this party site again linked to the location. So definitely I have to fill in the required location information. So whenever you're filling up any sheet, identify how it is related to another sheet. Make sure that you fill up that particular sheet also. Okay. Now, as like I have filled up the 7 sheets. So now just click on instructions, click on generate CSV file. And this step will generate the zip file. So let me delete my existing zip file. So I'll save here. Okay, that's it. So once your zip file is generated, then what is the next step? You just go to Navigator, Tools, Schedule Processes, Schedule New Process, Load, Interface. So sorry, the second step, like what I was telling was the first step was like getting the FBDA file. And what was second step? Second step is to get the batch ID, right? So how do you get the batch ID? So let me show you that. And then we can perform the import. So go to receivables, billing, and the task list. Under the customer section, click on manage data import, and now here to click on plus symbol here and mention the batch name. So it can be any user defined name, but make sure that like you mention the appropriate name so that it helps you to identify your particular batch and so that you can correlate what you're working on. Now it generated a batch ID. So now you have to copy this batch ID, and in your particular sheet, in every sheet, wherever you're filling the information, you have to mention this particular batch ID. Okay. Now once you've got the batch ID, fill up the template, generate the batch, generate the template, generate the zip file, and then what you do, click on this particular navigator, click on schedule processes, schedule new process, load interface, file for import, click on OK. Here, import trading commodity data in bulk. Okay, just search it. Upload new file, select the zip file which we generated just now, click on OK, submit. And the process ID is ending with 766. Refresh, click on hierarchy so that we can understand what is the status of each particular child process of this load file. It may take a couple of seconds or maybe minutes based on the data. Okay. So here if you observe why it is at this number of load file to interface, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because the zip file which I have filled it up has 7 sheets, because I have filled up 7 sheets in Excel file. So definitely will generate the 7 CSV files. Now this load file is successful. And what is the next step you have to do? The fourth step is you have to go to billing, and here perform the manage data import. And so assume that you have filled your particular Excel file for this batch ID. So then you have to click on import for that specific batch, because the data whatever you have inserted will load into interface table, and this import job will get all the records where the batch ID is matching with this batch ID. That's how it will try to validate. So of course, in my case, this may not work because I have all what are the batch ID which I have mentioned is wrong, right? I've used the earlier batch ID, right? So definitely it will not process anything. Okay. So this was a batch which I have loaded earlier. And here, if you observe this particular batch, so here, if you observe this batch, right? So I have inserted 7 records like account, account site use, and then location, party, and party site. So let me repeat again. Locate party, party site use, account, account site use, as well as location. So the total 7 records. Okay. So it's all about how do you which set of sheets which you what are the entities which you want to enter for customer. Based on that, you have to enter the appropriate, you have to fill up the appropriate sheets, and then you have to perform the import. And once it gets imported, right now, let us say if any batch gets failed, like how do you know the error, right? So in this particular import batch, click on report. It will tell you if at all any failures are there, it will clearly gives that information which entity got failed and why it got failed. And now let us say you have 7 sheets, and there are particular set of you have errors in maybe in 2 sheets. So what will happen to the other remaining sheets? It will import. If at all, if it is not having any dependency on the other sheets, definitely will get imported. But if it is having dependency, definitely everything may fail. Now let us say, assume that you have a party site use, account site use, as well as location. If you have error at the party level, definitely what will happen? Everything will fail. But let us say you have error at only account site use level, then what will happen? Till that account site, it will get loaded. Only the account site use will get failed. So let me show you that example which I used earlier. So here, if you observe, right, in this one, in the batch 007, what happened was 6 got imported, only 1 got failed. The only failure was only at the account site use level. So in the real-time scenario also, will definitely face these kind of issues. So that's the reason better always go with the preview mode and find out if you can rectify it. Now, there was a small mistake in the references information which I mentioned, the account site level. That's why it got failed. And this is how we can identify if you get any error, right? And if you want to get some more detailed information also, what you can do, you can go to the HZIMP error table. From there also, you can get the error information as well as error code. And other one more very important one I want to share with you is like the list of error which you get, right? So from Oracle Fusion, like we have one particular Oracle documentation which clearly tells you, based on that, you can just refer to this particular one. This is the note, and which has the clear information about, based on the error code, what is the reason of failure it will have it. So it seems like a little bit tricky part, but this will help you to identify lot number of errors. I mean, this will help you to identify the errors when you're really working on the import part, okay, to fix the errors, okay. So just refer to this particular note, okay. Now, as of now, we have seen how do you load it and how do you get the documentation. And the next one is, let us say if you're working on it particular multiple times, make sure that you purge it periodically. Nothing but, let us say if you are assume that you have loaded the data and you want to perform the import again by rectifying some errors, right? Now let us say in this step, right? So batch 7, like I have done in the preview mode, assume that 6 were success, 1 got failed. And now what we have to do, you may have a new batch, but the references, but the existing data is same, right? In that kind of scenario, better you purge that particular batch and then you perform the real import. So how do you purge it, right? You click on action, click on purge. So this will delete the data from the interface table, and that, like, which will help you out, this will remove the data from the interface table. And when you perform the import, you'll not have any accidental issues while processing by the program. Okay, that's the reason you have to purge it periodically whenever you don't require it. Now, coming to the next thing, we have seen how to purge it, and also this one also we have seen it, trading community source system. And yes, other very important one is account set. So at the account site level as well as account site use level, you have to use the account site code. So maybe this query may help you out find out the account set, or maybe if you have a direct reference from your functional consultant, you can use the account set code. But other thing is, in the sheet, it tells you the account site ID, but actually you have to mention the account site code, address set code. I mean to say, not account site code, address set code. Let me show you that where exactly I'm referring to. So here in the account sites, account address set. So it tells you the account set ID, but actually this is not set ID. It is account set code, address set code. Okay, remember this. This is a bug in the FBDI template itself. And other one, here also in the account site is also, it is not set ID, it is account set code. But how do you find it, right? So as I said you, right, like when from this I can get the easier clue. So in the customer account site here, if you observe account site, where is that? Account site, account sites, right? Just download this one control file. And here if you observe, takes time. Yeah. So here if you observe, it is clearly mentioned that it is set code, not set ID at all. Okay, that's how I found it. Okay. Now coming to next. So now we understand this one account set, and these are some of the very important tasks which may help you out. And make a note of this one. Okay. Now, and profile value also, if at all, if you want to generate the, I mean, whenever you're having any issue with this particular account numbers or site number, right? This profile values will help you out to fix that. So the spreadsheet which we have used now, which can be used for insertion as well as updation also. Okay, updation may not happen on all the columns, but for few of the columns, it help you to update it. Okay, so yep. And this is security task which I was telling, right? Like when you download the template, you may have this issue. So what you do is, once you get the file, click on the properties, just unblock it and click on apply, so that you'll not have this security risk issue at all. Okay, so we can refer to this particular references for some more extra information. And this all about customer import in Oracle Fusion. Thank you.